Julianne Genter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on behalf of the Green Party on the Trustee Public Trust Amendment Bill. The Green Party only saw a copy of this bill very late in the day on Tuesday. Today is the first day I've had a chance to look at the regulatory impact statement, and I wouldn't say that I've had enough time to look at it thoroughly. As Andrew Little mentioned earlier, even in the regulatory impact statement, it says that officials haven't had the opportunity to fully evaluate all the options they would have liked to deal with the problem that has arisen. The Green Party will be supporting the bill because we agree that there is a problem, and we do think it's very important to protect the public trust from unforeseen financial liabilities that would arise from being appointed as a trustee of last resort for failed finance companies. However, I have to agree with Andrew Little in saying that the process by which we've adopted, the process being adopted by the government to put this bill through under urgency doesn't allow us to fully scrutinise and evaluate all the options, and it's unclear to me at this point that the option that has been chosen and put forward in this bill is actually the best option for dealing with the problem. And there is a very serious and significant question as to why the government wasn't aware that this could become a problem until CNM applied to the High Court for the public trust to be appointed as a replacement trustee for perpetual. Why did they not realize that this was going to be a problem when the failure of finance companies has been going on for a number of years now, and there's a huge number, 60 failed finance companies, as the Minister referred to. Perpetual Trust is a corporate trustee for 22 of these companies. And obviously, I think I would have thought that it would be obvious that there would be a danger of something like this arising and the public trust suddenly having to become the trustee of last resort for companies that simply haven't looked after or haven't taken responsibility for their own risks and no longer have the money or resources available to handle all of the costs that are incurred as a result of their poor decisions. It's really important when dealing with the types of failures that we've seen coming out of the financial crisis that the public sector and Crown-owned entities are protected from having to bail out or otherwise incur financial liability for decisions that were made by the private sector and decisions that made some people a whole lot of money in the short term, but now have resulted actually in a destruction of wealth. And it's really important that the public sector isn't stuck with that risk and forced to pick up the tab. We constantly hear from this government that it's important to support the private sector, to support private business. That sort of model can only work if the risk is fully borne by the private sector and not the public sector when bad decisions are made. While on the one hand we hear arguments that the public sector shouldn't be putting money and investment into those who are the worst off, into public infrastructure that everyone can benefit from, they're looking for every opportunity to get private sector capital involved in what really should be public infrastructure projects like prisons and schools and transport projects. They want to get private sector capital involved, not because there'll be a cost savings to the taxpayer or not because there'll be a benefit to the economy, but because it simply guarantees a return for private investors over the long term. Because as we've seen, the private sector has provided fewer and fewer opportunities for low-risk, long-term, sustained growth and growth in returns. So now the private sector is looking for every opportunity to secure assurances that they will get returns on what are actually where the public is going to end up taking the risk and the private sector gets to benefit from them taking that risk. So the Green Party is very happy to see that the government is willing to take some steps to protect the public trust from financial liabilities incurred from these developments with the failed finance companies. But we remain unconvinced that this is the best process that could have been taken in order to ensure that we do have a robust protection for the public trust. And it remains to be seen if this will indeed solve the problem, and we'll just have to wait and see. But until then, the Green Party will be supporting the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alfred Narrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the public trust has been